and welcome back to the Professional Wreck, our YouTube channel. Today, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I was here last, but I'm happy. I'm glad to be back here and cover another topic in construction with the hopes that maybe you'll benefit. Maybe utapata kitu moja mbili pale to help you with your construction journey. Remember that the sole purpose of this channel is to educate people, let people understand as much as possible as much as there is to understand about building and construction in terms of materials, processes, methods of construction, and all that. So that when the next time you're making the decision about constructing, you want to construct something, you have as much as possible. You have as much as information as possible, so that you're making the right decisions, you're making the right choices when it comes to choosing materials and all that. Right? So today I'm here to cover another topic, to talk about something that a type of material that is very common in building and construction. It's actually, if you're constructing something permanent, it's actually almost impossible not to use the material that I'll be talking about in this video, and that is this thing we call commonly in Kenya they call them D10. They use the word the letter D. You'll hear people talking about D10, D8, D12, D16, D24, and all that. So what is this? These are steel reinforced bars that are used in construction, and they are steel in nature. That is, the material is steel, and they are used in construction, in building construction, because they provide structural strength. They offer strength to your building and construction. What I mean, watu wenye bado hamuelewi, I'm talking about ile machuma zenyewe wanatumia kwa kutengeneza linto, zile machuma wao wanatumia kutengeneza pillars, beams and all that. Hizo machuma wanatumia in construction. Those are the materials, those are the bars or the material that we're referring to as steel reinforced bars. Commonly, you hear the name rebars coming up, but most commonly they use they use the letter or the denomination, whatever, the letter D, just to say D10, D8, and all that. They are reinforced. They are made from steel, and they provide super strength to structures. And they come in different sizes. That's why you'll hear D, and that D, mostly that D stands for deformed bars. So they are deformed bars, and the numbers, those numbers, number D10, D8, D10, D12, D16, and all that, those numbers refer to the diameter of that 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 bar or that rebar. So when they're talking about D8, it means that the diameter of the bar is 8 millimeter. So hence D10, hence D8, D10. Most likely the lowest is the D8, and then the highest can go to a lot of thickness. The highest, I think, you'll come across something like maybe D30. Is it the D30, D32? But mostly in Kenya, in most constructions, utapata D24. That's mostly the minimum, the highest you'll come across. But there's a possibility. Those are let's talk about that is the most common. Those are the size 24 is the most common, is the most common and biggest size you'll come across. And the smallest is size 8. So what that means that it's possible to make them bigger than that. It's possible to make them smaller than that, but it depends on the application. The applications that are actually most common in Kenya require that range between 8 to 24. Are we together? And yeah, they're called. They provide. They usually these bars have indentations, or what we call lugs or ribs on the sides, and these are designed to provide. So yeah, there are those indentations that are usually designed into the bars, and their purpose is to provide or to enhance the ability of the rebar to bond with the concrete. So yeah, That's the reason why kama wewe ni Mluya tunazita mahakasi. Yeah. Mahakasi kabetanga kudhibiti. So yeah, those indentations, those lugs, those ribs, they are meant to provide more strength between the bar and the concrete, so that it bonds much better with it and it's able to provide more strength. So yeah, you'll come across the characteristics of these things is that they offer high bond strength through those ribs. Those ribs are meant or are designed to provide more strength between the concrete and the bars. So that is one of the characteristics. And another one is that typically they're stronger. These bars, the steel that is used to make them is much stronger. It's much stronger than mild steel. So they offer more strength. And remember that the main purpose or the main reason why we use those rebars in construction is to provide structural strength, is to enhance the strength of the structure that you're trying to make. Because you don't want to make a bar that turns out to be weaker, or like the a beam. I mean, you don't want to make a beam or a column that turns out to be weaker than it is meant to be. Then maybe it can't support the weight, it can't support itself, maybe it collapses over or on its own weight, under its own weight. You don't want that, or you don't want that. So these bars are meant to provide strength, to enhance the strength of whatever it is you're trying to construct, or whatever it is they are involved, they are included into. If it's columns, they offer more strength. If it's those lintels and all that, the ring beam and all that, they offer more strength. So that's one of the characteristics, and that's why they're very useful in building and construction. So you don't want to miss them in your construction. And actually, the size of the bar that you're using will normally depend on how much strength you require in your structure. Let's say maybe you're constructing a beam that is supposed, a column that you're constructing at the veranda that is supposed to support more weight up there, maybe other parts of the building. Let's say maybe it's a Nigorofa. It's maybe a two-story house or whatever. It's a storied house, right? So you're including these columns because they'll be supporting upper floors. So the columns need to be very strong. That's why you find maybe using bars that are maybe, let's say, just the size of maybe a D16, because D16 is actually very strong, very thick, and it can offer a lot of strength. And maybe if it's just maybe a normal house that doesn't have another floor up there, maybe you can just use something like D10, much smaller, but it provides enough strength to support other structures up there on the building. I mean, let's talk at the veranda. The commonly Kenya, you'll find we have these verandas where you construct the veranda, the columns, and then there is another part of the building up there that now rests on the column. Sometimes people use things like black pipe. Let's say maybe it's black pipe size 2 inch or maybe 2.5 inches or maybe 3 inches to support the weight. But if you decide to use a column to construct a column, a concrete column, the 10 will do the work, will do the trick, or maybe the 12 will still work just fine. So the size of the column that you are of the bar that you're choosing will depend on on how much weight the column is supposed to support. And usually these columns, these bars are usually twisted. They are actually made to. I'll be showing that I think in another video where I'll come up maybe with an example of what I'm talking about, the bars and how they are tied together so that it becomes one continuous structure that is there now, because they don't support themselves independently. And actually tomorrow I'll be making another short, I'll be making a short or maybe a rather short video just to illustrate to show the various types of rebars that there are, or at least the ones that we have in our stores, so that you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And another characteristic is that they are very durable. Now, still, since this is steel and usually it is usually enclosed within concrete, it will just rust. It will rust on the. If you understand how iron works or how steel works, it will rust on the on the outer side to form that iron oxide, right? The gray substance that when you touch those bars, is it gray? Not gray. The brown substance that is iron oxide. And then once the outer layer has been oxidized to form that iron oxide, it prevents. Yeah, steel usually rusts. That rust is what we're calling iron oxide. And once the outer surface of the bar has oxidized or has rusted, it prevents the entrance of air or oxygen specifically to other to the deeper layers of the bar. So rusting stops at that. It doesn't continue rusting into the inner layers of the bar. I don't know if this is making sense. That yes, it rusts, but then only the outer layers rust, and then the inner layers are protected by the rust, so it doesn't continue rusting. That's why they can last for a very long time, a lifetime actually. They are very durable. Like yeah, you see these. Yeah, you see buildings that were constructed back in 19 maybe 20s, but they are still there. If maybe if you remove the if you try to access the bars inside there, the rebars, you still find them still intact because they can last for a very long time, usually a lifetime, or maybe two, three lifetimes. That is how durable these things are. And then they come in standard sizes. Usually there are standards. You have standards for Europe, standards for the Americas, you have standards for Africa, standards for East Africa, and all that. But characteristically, these things tend to be the same. The bars you come across in Kenya probably will look the same as the bars you come across in Europe, because I think the millimeters, the size, the diameter doesn't change. If it's 8 millimeters in Africa, it's still 8 millimeters in Europe. So they'll tend to be the same thing we're talking about. Mm, then we have different standards where we have different sizes, like I've already talked about that. We have, the minimum you'll come across in Kenya mostly, or at least the minimum I've come across, and the minimum that we actually sell at our shop is 8 millimeters. It's possible to come across 6 millimeters, yes. Possible to come across maybe 4 millimeters, but the most commonly in use is 8 millimeters. And I would like to mention that those bars actually, the ones you commonly come across in Kenya, those things are actually not standard. They are not actually exactly 8 millimeters. Mostly they are 6 millimeters or 7. The manufacturers, I don't know how they manage to do that, but somehow they tend not to meet the the size requirements. Usually, if you measure, especially if you come R6, that is R6, that is people who understand what I'm talking about. R6 is the one that mostly they use to tie R8, D8, or maybe D10. So you find that the R6, what they are calling R6, that R means a round bar, right? It usually doesn't have those lags or indentations that I talked about, just smooth. And it's the one that they use to tie together the D10, the D8, and all that. That is for the those smaller sizes. But for bigger sizes, maybe if it's let's say maybe something like D16, they'll maybe use D8 or D10 to tie, something like that. So you'll find that R6, it is red, it is round, it doesn't have those indentations, and then the 6 stands for the diameter. So it is supposed to be 6 millimeters. But if you measure, it's never 6 millimeters, something like 4 millimeters, or sometimes the generous manufacturers will make it maybe 5 millimeters. But it's never 6 millimeters. If you come across the standard 6 millimeters, you'll appreciate it because it's supposed to be bigger, in terms have a bigger diameter. and hence no strength. But in Kenya, they don't do that. And actually, even the D10 sometimes and the D8 sometimes they wanafinya sana. It's never actually the exact size. So yeah, that is that. And I would like to say that there are different types of these rebars, of these steel reinforced bars. There are different types, and mostly in Kenya we come across the bars you come across commonly in Kenya. Not always, but I'm using the word commonly. So yeah, commonly the bars you'll come across commonly in Kenya are TMT, where T stands for thermal, M stands for mechanically, and then T stands for treated. So they are thermomechanically treated bars. They have a much strong outer surface, and then they have a ductile core. The core of it is ductile, and they are very resistant to corrosion and things like that. And then we have twisted, deformed bars. Those ones are actually kind of out of fashion. You will not come across them commonly. They were phased out. They they were twisted. They are twisted in nature. Let me show you what I mean by that. Yeah, this is what I mean by twisted, deformed bars. Yeah, I'm sure people who grew up in 2000s, early 2000s, understand what this is because these ones were the ones that were more commonly in use until they were phased out. And actually, this one here, I got it from demolishing a wall, a column from a house that was constructed in early 2000s. That's how I came across this. You can see it's rusted, it's old, but if you can see, it's still actually intact. It's still the same thing. The strength is still there. It's almost like it never, it just rusted outside. The outer, a very thin film, rusted. The outer, a thin outer film of rust, and then prevented the other inner layers from rusting. So you still have this, still very strong, still very usable, but they are not common these days. They were phased out by, I don't know, caves or whoever, so maybe the NCA, the National Construction Authority. I don't know who made the call, but these ones here are no longer there. They are not available. You not come across these ones. The ones we have today are the ones that have indentations and those bags, the ones I talked about earlier. So yeah, these are not actually, it's twisted deformed bag. So yeah, I think that's it for today. I might, I think I'll be uploading another video tomorrow. Maybe talk more about that. And if you have any questions you might have for me, you want to learn, you want to know something that I didn't mention here, feel free to talk to me about the same in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to come back here and talk about, address your questions, your concerns, and all that. But that's it for today. But tomorrow, remember to check out this channel tomorrow in the short section. I'll be uploading a short or a shorter video where I'll be showing you actually the various, what I mean by deformed bars. These rebars, it's actually late here, so I can't capture a good picture or a good video outside the studio. I'm in the studio, so outside there it's darkness. I can't do that. So yeah, I'll be making that tomorrow. I don't even have actually even samples of those bars here to show you. But I'll be happy to do that tomorrow when I get back to work so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Otherwise, stay safe and have a good one and happy construction. I'll be seeing you in the next one.